was that these people were sophisticated, that there was fucking crazy types of technology before us.
But the problem is they looking for
Proving is that we don't know shit.
You see what I'm saying, though?
Nothing. We can never
they look,
prove
yeah, that's what it is.
We'll never know.
They denying it because there's no documentation.
We're never gonna know.
Who has the answers?
Hey everyone, welcome to Gobekli. I can't fucking pronounce this name. Welcome to Gobekli Tepe, your weekly pop culture update podcast. Coming at you from Los Angeles, it's Juan Morales, and newly in Las Vegas, Juan Pablo.
Yeah, I came here to get married real quick, so catch me here. Yeah, I'm out here in Las Vegas for a short trip. So not from New Jersey this time. We're actually on the same time zone though, so shout outs.
Fortunately, not the same place. Loss.
Yeah.
Places that start with loss.
Yeah, but great week. Actually, well, busy week, I guess. We've both been like buzzing through it.
Quick week. Yeah, for sure.
Quick week for sure. But a lot of interesting things happened. I usually like to delve right into the updates. But okay, so Astroworld dropped. We talked about it last week. And now sitting after it a week, it seems like it's going to be moving. This is just predictions, but about in between 450 and 500,000 units, which, just for comparison, the biggest release this year prior to that was J. Cole at about 390. So if you can like that's pretty massive for Travis. So shout outs for him moving so many goddamn album sales. Also, Trippie Redd released, and Trippie is actually right there in the top 5 album releases the top 5 trending right now on Billboard. Great album, Life's a Trip. I mentioned it last week, but I listened to it and it's fantastic. I'm a huge Trippie Redd fan, so check that out if y'all haven't checked it out already. If you're not new, if you don't know who Trippie Redd is, then definitely check it out. I think he's doing something really unique in the rap game. Okay, as far as music, I think that is the majority of what I wanted to cover, without underplaying anything else. Well, other than, of course, Nicki Minaj's release, which has had people talking a lot, actually, because she has retaken her throne, as they say, as the queen. And it's actually pretty interesting, because she has a song. I highly suggest everyone check it out. Juan, you too. It's called Barbie Dreams, and she just goes off on that song. She calls out everyone left and right, from Drake to Meek and everything in between, Lil Wayne. It's a really playful song, but definitely like worth checking out. And of course, people weren't expecting this, but J. Cole did release a single called Album of the Year, Freestyle. And in theory, what we're expecting is that he's actually going to release an album on his quote-unquote off season now, which is set to be just a bunch of bangers. I don't know, we'll see. J. Cole never disappoints, I think. So yeah, that's album releases this week. Juan, something that we keep, I'm glad that more shit keeps happening with this, because we can keep updating people about it. But did you hear about what Dave Bautista said in regards to Guardians of the Galaxy?
Last I heard, he was just saying that he's going to continue doing it, but he's not happy.
Right. Well, that's what we spoke about, I believe, last week. There's more news. This happened recently, actually. I believe a couple days ago. It was on Wednesday when I read it. So he's actually threatening to quit his role as Drax if the original script is not used. He said that he refuses to make the next Guardian of the Galaxy movie if they don't use the James Gunn screenplay. That's
crazy, and I feel like this one actually might work, which makes me happy, because I mean, it's got to at least be his writing. Come on.
Yeah. No, Dave Bautista was really mad to hear that there was a possibility that his script wasn't going to be used. So he literally said, "Listen, if you're not going to have him direct it, then you better use the script, because otherwise I'm quitting." And
they might call his bluff.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just scary.
I mean, contracts are a whole thing and a half, so I don't really know how he would manage that. But that being said, I think it's fair what he's saying. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good plea. Because if anything, like, this is exactly what you were saying last week. It's funny that this is coming up, because it's what you said. You're like, if we're going to have a next Guardians, at least it should be written by James Gunn. You said that last week, and I think that's super relevant because that's still what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Okay, some other movie related things. Johnny Depp, so I don't know if you knew this, but Johnny Depp was doing this movie about the notorious B.I.G., Biggie, and it was supposed to, there was a theater release for it already. It was shot, the trailers were interesting, and it got pulled from theater releases indefinitely. Because, of course, Johnny Depp, he's going through his hardship, of course, as he always does. He's been having a pretty rough time in the last decade, I guess, in Hollywood. But there are some allegations that he's being pressed by some of the people that were on set with him because of him being violent. We know he has a huge thing about being drunk, and like he has a huge just alcohol abuse problem. So, and he's quite a violent person. So there's a lot of lawsuits going on, and there's a potential that this movie might not even hit theaters. So unfortunate, because I'd love to see a notorious movie, but we might not get to see it.
We probably will. It just probably won't be helmed by Johnny Depp, honestly.
Yeah.
There's a market for it, so it'll probably show up.
They might pull Kevin Spacey and you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Ridley Scott movie.
Ridley Scott, yeah.
Ridley Scott.
Just replace the actor.
He clutched hard, because I went to see that movie in theaters. He clutched it hard. It looked like it was impeccable. He shot all of that. I think it was in like a month.
Oh, it was a few days.
He reshot everything. Oh, it was less, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was like a week of shooting. It was really short.
Yeah. Bizarre. So they might pull that. You never know.
Yeah.
Okay. I really hope you haven't heard this, because I want to get your sincere reaction about this topic right now.
Probably haven't.
Did you see Kanye West on Jimmy Kimmel?
I did not. I wanted to. I just didn't play the video.
So Kanye bailed on James Corden for Carpool Karaoke. Literally 5 minutes before shooting it, he bailed. But he appeared on Kimmel a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Or yesterday, I believe. And he spoke about a lot of things. Kimmel did a very good job at hosting this 15-minute interview, so a lot was said. I highly encourage people to check it out if you're a Kanye fan. So of course, like, the whole Donald Trump thing comes up, and it's really interesting because Kimmel does a great job of mentioning, hey, like, I know that you're a Trump supporter and all this shit, but like, how do you feel about him? Like, because you're the guy that went on like live television and said George Bush doesn't like black people, you know? And so he was like, that very same Kanye, like, what does Kanye think about Trump? Because like, it's hard to say that like does Trump care about black people? And literally he left Kanye speechless, and they had to cut to a break because Kanye didn't have an answer. He didn't have an answer.
That's insane. Kanye not being able to respond is...
Yeah, no answer. But however, the meme highlight of that interview is actually when Kanye, I forget what the question was that Kimmel asked him, but basically Kanye was like, nah, like he was like, he admitted, he's like, I still watch Pornhub, like I still go on Pornhub, like I watch porn, like it was something in relation to like being
his
married
porn
to
addiction.
Kim, obviously. No, it was in relation to being married to Kim and like his lifestyle and all this other stuff. But he was like, nah, like I still watch Pornhub. And then it was funny because for like a couple minutes they got into like what Kanye watches on Pornhub.
Oh really?
Yeah, no, I shit you not. And the funniest part is that right after this aired, Pornhub tweeted at Kanye and was like, thanks for shouting us out on live television. We now want to give you a lifetime premium account just for you. So Kanye now has a lifetime premium Pornhub account just for shouting them out on live television.
I mean, he is Kanye West.
Yeah. I
mean,
he
deserves
Did you expect anything different?
No.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely worth mentioning. Really funny. I can't really say anything else. I think we should leave it at that note for the updates here.
Oh, well, I have one more, and it's really important.
Go ahead.
Absolutely super important.
Okay.
The Meg is outperforming all expectations. Everyone's going to watch it. Apparently, it's looking to make 40 million this weekend.
Jesus.
And I think that's domestic. And I think it's
That's a
around
great
90
opening
million.
for a shitty film.
40 million domestic and 90 million overseas, which is a huge opening for a Jason Statham shark movie. And I'm really excited to talk about it because I was one of the people that contributed to that. Whatever, 40 million. Yeah.
Well, stay tuned, everyone, because that's our mini topic of the week: shitty film reviews with Juan. This week it's the Meg.
You already know that I'm going to talk about that. I told you guys it was coming.
Yeah.
Told you guys.
You warned us last week. So
This is going to be a fully spoilers Meg shitty movie talk, and it probably won't be longer than like 5-10 minutes.
Fair.
But I'm excited.
But we'll get to that. Stay tuned for that. Right now, we're actually going to go into Blindspotting, which we told y'all about last week.
Second best movie I
Blindspotting.
watched this week.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Excuse me? What? I hope not. But no, yeah. Blindspotting, our topic of the week, movie of the week. A lot to say about this film. So I want to kind of delve in. Well, I want to give a little precursor about the film. So for those who don't know what Blindspotting is a film about what's the character's name? I'm blanking.
Shoot, freaking character names. It was with a C. Was it Colin?
Yeah, it might have been Colin. Either way.
No, that's not Colin.
No? Okay. Either way, protagonist of Blindspotting. I'm terrible with names, so of course, like, I'm gonna forget it. But protagonist of Blindspotting.
Colin. I was right.
Oh, great. Okay. Colin, African American man, who lives in Oakland. He gets released from jail. He served. I think it was like a couple months, right? He served it was less than a year. I know that, but they granted him probation, 365 days of probation, where he couldn't leave the Oakland area. And the movie takes place in the last 3 days of that probation, essentially. So we get to see the last 3 days. And so the movie kind of centers around him in these last 3 days. He's obviously not trying to get into any altercation with the police, but he has a very interesting friend, his best friend, who is white. And
Miles.
Miles, but he's a pretty guy. He's a pretty crazy guy.
He's a pretty guy.
I mean, he's pretty, but he's pretty crazy. With that, I don't want to mention too much, but let's just say that his best friend is a very problematic individual. You see that from the first 5 minutes of the film, and you see it in the trailer too, actually. Very problematic individual, and it's basically Colin and his best friend going through the next 3 days of that probation. You get to follow Colin around, and yeah, that's pretty much the story. What I do want to say, though, if anyone who is listening right now is from the Bay Area, particularly from the Oakland area, then this is basically just one massive Oakland homage. And I say that because the opening scene of the film are just shots of Oakland. You get to see an Oakland theater, you get to see all kinds of things, basically. And of course, I'm not from Oakland, but like, I know a lot of people who are from Oakland, and like, I've gotten to visit Oakland, and it really shows in this film. It's just one massive homage, even from the music that they play in the cars during the transition scenes and whatnot. They're all Oakland artists, like I Am Sue and whatnot. So it's like a great, like, I feel like people, especially who are from the Bay, really, really get a nice feel out of this film, because there's a lot of Oakland pride, of Oakland culture. Which is actually great, because I know that like the Oakland film scene is expanding. That it started with Black Panther, really. That's when it blew up, because a lot of the origins of that whole film are in Oakland. And without obviously if you haven't seen Black Panther, what the fuck? But without ruining it, there are some origins within Oakland that relate to Black Panther, and since then we've seen other films. And now this one in particular, massive homage to Oakland, and I think it's beautiful. Juan, I know that you like the movie a lot. We're obviously not going to do any spoilers right now, but I want to hear your take on the film.
Yeah, so I think that my love for the movie pretty much just stems from the fact that these are these characters feel like they're real. They feel like they're in situations that, you know, could occur. They feel like they make decisions that, you know, are more complex than black and white. Miles is a shitty person, but like, he's not as shitty as the trailers make him out to be. He, you know, well, I guess it's not a spoiler. He has a wife and a daughter, and he's actually pretty much just an angry man with a lot of he's got issues, but a lot of the characters that were built in this movie were very real to me, and that just kind of made it that added to you know, how great the movie was. I also really liked something that I wasn't expecting, was that the movie's actually really funny.
Yeah, it has really good moments.
I thought it was going to be more of a drama. I don't think it's as funny as Sorry to Bother You, but it has its moments where you're just laughing out loud. And I mean, it has one moment in particular where my whole theater was laughing, and I was very unsure whether or not I should be laughing, which I'll talk about in spoilers. But that was a great scene. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I mean, I think that it approaches this whole situation of racial identity in a way that I haven't seen done before, because the movie's really about whether or not, or about how they explain the concept of blind spotting to you kind of very clearly in the movie. In fact, they define it for you towards the end. And I mean, it's this concept of kind of what you're predispositioned to see can't really be changed unless you rewire your mind. So this kind of racial profiling that's happening in America can't be stopped, no matter how much people change themselves, no matter how hard they work to not be what they look like they are. It doesn't matter. Someone's initial opinion will always be someone's initial opinion. And I thought that was actually super, it resonated with me a lot, because really, as much as I am, you know, and you are too, some of the whitest looking Latinos in existence, even I've experienced, and I don't know if you have any stories, but I'm going to tell
I have
one.
plenty. Don't worry, but you go ahead.
You know, I've experienced my own racial profiling in my life, and it's gotten to the point where I hate talking to the cops. I hate dealing with them. I think that they are judgmental and that they refuse to talk to me, and that's just from a few situations that I've had with them. One in particular, when I was in sophomore year of high school, I went home sick about halfway through the day, and I heard some noises in my house, but I was really sick, so I went straight to bed. When I woke up, a whole lot of my things were gone. I think it was like a PS3 controller, and like my 3DS, and my wallet, and like a few other things, just like scattered around the house, were gone.
Right.
And before I went to sleep, I had heard the door kind of like it makes a noise when you open it, where like the doorbell will ring a little bit, because the doorbell.
Right.
Do you remember that it did that?
Yeah. I remember
anyway,
your door had that thing.
Yeah, so I heard that, and I was like, who is it? I don't really care. I'm dead. I thought it was your mom because she dropped me off. And I didn't answer the door. I didn't even go check on it. Just went to sleep. And looking back, I know that that's because, or I very much believe that that's because someone was in my house.
Right.
When I got there, stealing my stuff. And when I went to the police about this, the first thing that they asked me were like, they looked at me and they were like, do you remember 2 weeks ago when we picked you up in the parking lot? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, no, you and your friends, like, and like the drugs we found on you guys. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, we found drugs on your friends, and I guess we didn't catch you. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I tried to get them to kind of like investigate. They refused to investigate. They refused to look into a house break-in, right?
Right.
And robbery. And when my mom asked about it, they just said, oh, your son just sold those things for drugs. Now,
God damn.
I've been a straight A student my whole life. I've worked really hard to do that. I didn't do any drugs. I barely even drank when I was underage. Like, it's ridiculous to me that this was the reaction of the cops. And I mean, my things were never found, you know?
No, yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember
They
that.
didn't look into it. They didn't care. They just thought I sold this for drug money and was trying to get... What did they think I was trying to get from them if I sold my things for drug money?
Right.
Like, I don't understand what their thinking was, but I know for a fact that wouldn't have happened. I mean, I don't feel like that would have happened if I wasn't Latino, and that's always been a bother to me. And I mean, obviously, I have like the short end of the stick. You know,
Yeah.
I'm in a situation where I barely get racially profiled, and even then, incredibly annoying, incredibly frustrating. When I got into college, I got into Cornell, and some of the kids in our school, which, I mean, they all work hard, sure, but they were like, I remember hearing them discussing me getting into Cornell with the words, "Man, it must be nice being a minority." And I mean,
Yeah.
it just, puts me down because it kind of tries to define me as my race, and that's not who I am. And I thought that was a big thing in this movie, especially not just with Colin, but with Miles too, because Miles didn't want to be, he's seen as this white guy, this hipster now. And he grew up in Oakland and kind of embraced the culture, and he can't be seen that way because he's white. And
Right.
Colin, he wants to look the way he looks, but every time he can't really do anything because he's always suspected by the cops, and he's terrified of them. Because while I get like this little judgment from the cops, black people in this country are getting shot for no reason, and that's
Right.
very clearly shown in this movie. And I thought that was really, really well done. And I think that this kind of discussion that was opened by the movie was phenomenal, because it showed two sides of the same coin, with Miles and with Colin. Even though they're extremely different characters, they were both kind of going through the same thing.
Right.
And I thought that was incredibly interesting. So those are my thoughts on the movie. I thought that it was really well done, really great, well filmed, funny when it needed to be, dramatic when it needed to be, very intense when it needed to be, with phenomenal acting. And I particularly remember that the director had some style to his shots that I really liked. A lot of times, kind of just, I think it was trying to pay homage to Oakland with like really nice shots of houses, or very, very clear shots of just street signs kind of telling you where they are in Oakland,
Right.
which I thought was actually a really nice touch, especially for people who live there.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's why I really enjoyed the movie. It was fantastic. It was well directed, incredibly well written, really funny, and it opens up this conversation about something that, yeah, it's being talked about, but it's something that needs to stay on public mind, I think, because yeah, it's difficult. Racial profiling, a lot of times it's implicit, like it's something that you don't think about, it just happens.
Right.
Because of the way you were brought up, or because of who you're around, and it's really difficult to kind of get rid of that. But as long as it stays on the public's mind, that could help. And I think that especially the problem with kind of cops, that needs to be there. I personally, I guess this is politics again, which we're not supposed to get into.
We try to stay out of it, but
yeah, every week.
In today's day and age, everything is related to politics.
But I
unfortunately.
absolutely think that they need to be looked at more seriously. Shooting down innocent people cannot be forgiven the way that it has been in the past, and it's absolutely ridiculous that they shoot at people who are running away.
Right.
And I mean, I know that there are many movies that are actually coming out dealing with this topic, but I thought that this one did it really well.
Yeah, and if I can chime in for a sec, I agree with everything you said. I think that you explained that marvelously. Yeah, and just to add on, I just want to add one little thing. What it's kind of unbelievable that like me and you have gone through things as Latinos. And again, like, we're fairly white because we come from Argentina. I know, like, there are some Argentinians that don't even define themselves as people of color because they just consider themselves white. And of course, like, you can choose how to identify however you want. Personally, I identify as a person of color. My mom's ancestry actually comes from like Native Americans of Argentina, which are like very, very dark. And so what we're dealing with here is like, it goes beyond just black and white, like, oh, you're black or you're white. It's colorism, you know, where like me and you get like, again, the short end of the stick because we're, you know, quote unquote thankfully whiter. But you know, there are Latinos that are very dark, to the point where they can be even confused or mistaken for just being black, African American, and they get the ass end of everything.
Absolutely.
And it's really unfortunate. And I think this movie is relevant. That's the thing. Like, it's very well directed. Again, very good homage to Oakland. The script was fantastic. The characters were real. Like, the thing about Sorry to Bother You is that it's great. I love that film. I think I still like it better than Blindspotting because of the originality. But I think that Blindspotting hits the relevance factor of where the country's politics are at right now, because it's much more real. That's what I liked about Blindspotting more than Sorry to Bother You. Just the realness, as you said, of the characters, the situations, the dialogue, everything about it was real. And so the entire time you're intrigued because you're like, I haven't gone through this, but you see this on TV, like you see this being talked about on college campuses and nationwide on TV, and like, this is the thing. And I'm glad that there was a studio willing to produce this film. What I'm not glad about is that it's being overseen, in my opinion. Like, there are very little theaters that offer it. It's not being screened in as many places. It's not being talked about. Now, I will say, it was heavily promoted on YouTube, which I'm glad about. But what I just, this is one of those movies where I'm glad that we're talking about it on our podcast, because if there's one more person that we can make see this film, I feel like we've done a good thing.
Absolutely.
Because this is one of those films that you have to watch now, like this year, like right now, because it's so relevant to our political climate, that it kind of leaves you in shock. I mean, again, it has some fantastic scenes that we're going to talk about shortly, because we don't want to spoil. If you haven't seen it yet, like, please watch it because it's fantastic. I don't want to delve too much more into it because I think, Juan, that you really sealed that conversation very well. You said everything that needed to be said about this movie. But what I will say is, definitely watch it. It's very relevant, very real, and it's good. It's good everywhere. Like, the characters, dialogue, directing, everything about it.
Yeah. Did you know first time director writer? Right?
Fantastic. Listen. There are some people that are just born to tell a story. And this is one of them. This is one of those stories. It's a passion project. This film felt like a passion project from the get-go. So again, from the opening scene where you have this just montage of Oakland, it felt like a passion project, and it resonates like a passion project because you can tell that it's real. Anyways, I think that's pretty much all I want to say in regards to no spoilers. I think this is a good mark, right? Where we can start talking about spoilers a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
So from here on out, we're going to spoil the movie. Please, if you haven't watched it, watch it, please. It's fantastic. That being said, Juan, please, let's talk about that scene that you said it was, like, funny but also uncomfortable. Like, let's talk about it.
All right, so the scene I'm talking about is when you have this one guy walk in to the shipping company where Colin works, and he's like, "Oh, I know you. You're the Scorpion King." And they've been calling him this the whole movie, and you're like, what does that mean? And finally, they explain to you why Colin went to jail.
Right.
Now, this is all done through this one Indian guy kind of just telling the story.
Right.
And it kind of very much reminds me of Michael Pena from the
From
the
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man movies.
Yeah. I
When-
could see that.
When he tells his stories,
Mhm.
and it's really funny because it's just a really funny thing, like way to tell a story, especially when you have someone speak and then the voice is different. You know, it's coming from the guy telling the story, and it's a really great way to do it. But the thing is that this movie kind of made it incredibly violent and bloody while the story was being told, which meant it was really funny to hear what was going on, but it was kind of horrifying to see what was going on.
Right.
And it was
right.
this
Like the
kind of
visual and the
mental
audio.
contrast, yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know whether to laugh or to not. And it was a violent scene. Seeing this guy get beat half to death was terrifying. And I mean,
Before being lit on fire
yep,
by accident.
yeah, and he, I mean, he probably should have gone back inside, but
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, and again, this is what the movie goes back to, right? Like, the entire film center focuses on Colin making one bad decision and that defining him for the entire film
for the rest
You
of his
know,
life, pretty much.
and the rest of his life, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, Val pretty, like, just from her facial expressions, you could tell the first thing she thinks of when she sees him is that fight.
Right.
And she can't rewire her head. She said it herself.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible. One scene, and it's actually funny, hold on, and I'm going to mention this from this scene before I go on to the next one, but it's really funny because this movie even sprinkles that whole, like, because there's this whole debate, well, not really a debate because it's kind of closed, but there's a whole section of Indian people, not just Indian, but I'm going to say, like, brown people that consider themselves of brown color,
Yeah.
and whether or not they're allowed to say the N-word.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because this Indian guy, he says the N-word and it slips, and his black friend goes, no, you can only say that when you're with me. And it's really interesting because, like, that is also just so relevant, because I even know people, like, I personally know, I'm not gonna call anyone out, but I personally know people who, like, they're like, oh, like, I have a cousin who was like an in-law who, like, married into the family. It's not even blood related. Like, in-law gave me the pass so I can say the N-word. And I'm like, no, you can't. Like, that's not how this works. But, like, I'm sure that if that were to happen in the public, same thing. Like, oh, no, you can only say that with me. Like, no. And so it's really funny because one of the climaxes of the film is actually Colin being like, go ahead. Okay, he tells Miles, he's like, go ahead, say it. Like, because you act like it. Like, you act like you're, like, you know, you're gangster and all this shit. But, like, go ahead, say the N-word. And, of course, and this is where we kind of see Colin being like, okay, like, I'm from Oakland, but that doesn't mean that I'm black. Like, I have the culture, but the culture isn't just black. Which you touched upon this, where it's like you get a really cool side of, like, you get to see, like, the blind spotting of, like, Colin as an African American in America, but you also kind of see the blind spotting of his best friend who is white but grew up in Oakland and grew up in that culture, you know, and, like, fortunately for him, I guess, he can go through society as a white man and kind of dodge all these bullets and be part of the privileged group. But internally for him, he doesn't feel that way, you know? So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you mentioned, at least.
Oh yeah, no, I
where you kind of
completely
get to see,
agree.
like, both of those sides.
And I think that one thing that I want to mention here is that one thing that I think is really well done in this movie was the friendship between Colin and Miles.
Oh yeah.
I think this is one of the more believable friendships that I've seen ever.
On film.
They were just so compatible with each other. They were completely comfortable with each other. All their little, like, when they just go into trying to freestyle for no reason.
Yeah.
All those sections were great. Colin being with his daughter, with Miles's daughter, and like playing with her.
Oh yeah, those are
and
some beautiful scenes.
They're
Like,
just some great moments of this friendship that is a real friendship. You know
Right.
that the two care about each other, but Miles has got some issues, and Colin understands this and accepts it because Colin's his friend.
right.
But
Best friend.
yeah, and I mean, this is something that I think is absolutely like one of the most interesting things about this movie, because you're watching it and you kind of understand why Colin doesn't just completely separate himself from Miles.
Right.
It's not because he's scared of him. It's not because, like, he doesn't fear what Miles might do. Clearly shown when he does kind of blow up at him.
Right.
He's just, it's his best friend. Like, it's just actually his best friend. And sure, his best friend has some issues, but you accept the issues.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because like there are many points throughout the film where you're in Colin's position, you put yourself there and you're like, yo, I would have cut this guy off right then and there. Like, this is too much for me. Like, I am 2 days away, I'm 1 day away from being off probation, and this motherfucker's about to get me back into jail. But Colin, until that climax part, I mean, even then, like, you think about it.
Oh, they're friends again at the end.
No, of course. But what I'm saying is that, like, for me, like, that part, when he's like, when Miles like beats up that black coworker, like, that's just not coworker, but like what the guy at the party.
Yeah.
And of course, like, Colin steps back, but it's not like he just ditches him. Like, they run away together, despite the fact that might have been the point where Colin went back to jail. Like, had the cops pulled up, like, anything could have happened again because of this whole like profiling thing. And
he kept the gun.
Yeah, he also had the gun, which is another scene right after that, which is where he gets a light shown on him because he's just a black man walking down the street. And of course, this scene is supposed to be suspenseful, and it's supposed to kind of like be like, oh, like, what's gonna happen? Nothing happens, of course, but the fact that that's even a thing is what's really fucking triggering. But no, yeah, I think the friendship dynamic is incredible, and I would want to know if they're actually friends in real life, because I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Because again, this is one of those like lower end films where you might find two like friends who actually can like act together, and I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case, because it really shows on screen.
Or they're just really good actors,
Yeah. Maybe they're friends after this. You never know.
Another thing I wanted to talk about here was the comedy. Other than the one scene that was like funny but difficult,
Right.
The comedy in this movie is really good, especially when Miles is trying to sell anything.
Oh my god.
Those scenes are all hilarious.
Yeah.
They're so great because he just talks fast, and half the time you don't understand anything that he's saying, especially when he's selling the boat.
Oh, he doesn't
And
even know what he's saying either.
That was the best part. He's like, what did he say? And he's like, I don't know. They just like the bounce to it.
Right. He's like,
He's
yeah,
got
I got the bounce to
$300.
it. And he sold it. He sold everything.
And yeah, it's actually crazy because Miles is like thinks quick. He's freestyling throughout the movie is much better than Collins until the end.
Right.
And he also does this thing where he just talks to people, convinces people, and he has this kind of swagger to him that Colin doesn't, and it's super interesting to watch and really funny to watch, especially when he sells the boat. I think selling the boat scene was one of my favorite scenes because I was trying to track the conversation and I was like, what the fuck are they saying?
No, yeah, that's one scene I want to go back to see.
I want to see if it makes any sense. Like,
Right.
I think it made sense to a point, and then I got so lost. I was like, is this all slang? Like, what is happening?
No, it's great. It's great because like his character, it's funny because there's a push and pull with his character, right? Because part of you wants to hate him for Colin, but another part is like this guy has a charm, right?
Oh,
And, like,
absolutely.
he's such a good dad. He's so sweet to his daughter. His relationship with his girlfriend is debatable at times.
It's actually
because,
his
again,
son. I was surprised as well.
Son or daughter?
Son. They call him a him many times.
Oh, true.
And the whole movie, I was like, but that looks like a little girl.
I've pulled a me because like people used to think I was a daughter instead of a son because of my long hair. I pulled a me. I did. I played myself. No, yeah, the dynamic. I'll say child. I'll say yeah, child. Him and his son. I guess that's the proper thing to say. Great dynamic, and of course the dynamic between the both of them is great. But even like his dynamic with Colin's family is great. He's just like he's the charmer, right? And it's just beautiful to see that push and pull. That's why it makes the character so real, because you can't just hate him and you can't just love him.
Yeah, you
He's
can't.
complex.
People aren't just or I mean, there are people that are just terrible people, but in general, people aren't perfect.
Right.
So they're never going to be perfectly good or perfectly evil, and it's really interesting to see this character who's just this complex character. You know, he's dealing with his own issues. He handles them in a way that's not ideal.
Yeah, not healthy.
And it's just hard to watch because a lot of times you love him because he's hilarious. He's got this charm that, you know, no one else has at all, not even close in this movie.
Right.
And he's just, I don't know, he was a great character.
No, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed him a lot as a character. And honestly, again, roundabout film. For those of you who watched it, like, definitely if you have any other comments, things that we left out, I'm sure we left out a bunch.
Well, I want to talk about the end first.
No, I want to say though, like, I want people to like definitely comment and like leave like what you want to talk about, because like of course we can't get to talk about everything, but I'm always curious to see like what things people take away the most from films, right?
Oh yeah.
But anyways, let's move on to the final scene before we cut the discussion. But
yeah,
shoot.
So I just wanted to get your opinions on the final scene where he kind of raps at the cop with the gun.
Right.
I thought that it was a really intense scene, and the whole time I was kind of on the edge of my seat because I didn't know if he was going to shoot him. I could have easily seen this movie ending with him killing the cop and going to jail forever. Which like it would have been a really dark but like honestly kind of typical ending.
Yeah, realistic ending, honestly.
Realistically, and well, I mean, that'd involve him having to kill someone, but yeah, I want to know kind of your opinions on that scene.
So here's the thing, and I agree with you to this point. When I was watching the film, I was interested throughout the whole thing, but that scene, but I was constantly thinking about like, okay, this film has had many climaxes, and it had that climax where they were both hating on each other. I thought that was the end of it, but then when this scene came along, I was like, wow, this is the scene that captivated me the most throughout the whole film. And I'm sure that this was the director's point, obviously, but yeah, no, it was super intense. I could not, like, the entire time I was edge of my seat. I was like, what the fuck is about to happen? Because the reality is this: when he first pulls through, right, when he realizes that it's the cop's house, pulls through into the little living quarter that he's in, you can see that the cop reaches for his gun before
straight
anything.
Goes to the gun before
right?
Even anything.
Right. And so a part of me was already under this notion, right? Because I'm always expecting the worst at this point. I was like, okay, this film is trying to talk about these racial divides, and so I was like, what more of a fitting ending than to have that cop kill Colin? And so, not that I want that to happen, but I was just like, I can see it happening because this is some fucked up shit. And so there were points throughout the monologue, throughout the rap, the freestyle, where I feared that Colin was going to get so into it, he's going to turn his back around, and then the cop was going to take advantage of that and shoot him. I could see that. I could also see Colin getting so worked up that he was going to kill the cop. However, character development-wise, I would not have seen that happening. Because I think Colin, again, between Colin and Miles, we already know that Miles is the one who's way more off the top. Miles, throughout everything, like, he's a pretty chill guy, minus, of course, the one reason why he goes to jail, which is also over exaggerated by the Indian guy. But what I do want to keep in mind, what I was keeping in mind during that scene was that I was like, there's no way that Colin can kill him, because but the one thing that I did have in mind was that he was going to get in trouble for doing this. I was actually quite relieved that it ended in the cop being scared for his life, of course, but also we kind of see a little bit of regret in him. Now, is it sincere or not? I don't know, because again, when we talk about white supremacy, when we talk about white privilege, and then when we talk about police shootings and all this other stuff, police will say whatever they want to get away, and they'll say whatever they need to say to get out of prison sentences, consequences, etc. We're dealing now in this particular scene, right, where it's very intimate between them two, right? And I think Colin is the one that says, I want this to stay between just me and you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's between me and you. That monologue was for the cop. We see the cop crying, we see him fearing for his life, and we see him, I guess, a little bit regretful of his decision. He says, I didn't mean to kill him. The thing is, that sentence irked me, because you shot the motherfucker 4 times. You don't shoot someone 4 times. Like, that's shoot to kill. You know, if you don't want to kill someone, you shoot them in the leg once. You see that the bullet hits. Okay, if the guy is still running, he's going to start limping and he's going to fall. You don't shoot a guy 4 times to stop him. You shoot him 4 times to kill him. We're delving into another topic, and this is obviously something that we could talk about for more, so I don't want to get too deep into it. But to respond to your question, if I didn't already, basically, yes, I was definitely on the edge of my seat, but I did want to, the resolution that came from it was what I wanted, which is what I was happy about. I even more so was expecting them to hug it out. Call me corny, but I feel like that would have been a cute resolution per sort. Not saying that this needs a cute resolution.
You thought he was gonna hug the cop?
I straight up thought that he was gonna hug him and be like, listen, I love you, but I hate you. This is a lot. It's coming from a mentality that I've had recently, that I've thought about a lot and I've spoken to a lot of people about. That's why I think I wanted to see that. Not saying that it would have been fitting. It was just something that I could have seen happening. But I think the resolution was fitting. I think that him getting killed by the cop would have been too dark of an ending, similar to the way we saw Get Out. We did you see the alternative ending for that?
No.
There's an alternative ending you can actually see on YouTube, where the protagonist is actually like, I believe this is it, but you know the ending of Get Out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wait, yeah, I remember seeing the ending.
Okay, there's an alternative ending
Explain
that's
it
darker, anyway. That the director did not want to include because he thought that it would be too dark of an ending to that film, because the film was already intense as it was. But I think that in that same limelight, like, having Colin killed at the end would have been too dark for a film that had you so pressured throughout the whole thing. You know what I mean? I think it would have been a little too dark. Which is why I like the fact that this monologue, it was intense. It's the best lyricism you see from Colin. It's the best vocabulary that you see him use, the best form of expression. Even when he gets super aggressive, I think it's well worth the effort that was put into this, and I think he delivers it perfectly. And I think that's where it should have been. I think this was a dialogue that had to happen between him and the cop. I definitely would not have wanted to see Colin get killed. Is it an alternative ending that I could have seen happening? Hell yeah. Is it realistic? Yes. But I'm much more content with what we saw. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you hold the same opinion, but that's, as far as I was concerned, that's what I felt like. And I was definitely nervous. I think it's one of the most nerve-wracking scenes I've seen this year by far.
Oh yeah, I was on
not just
the edge of my seat.
It's everything.
I was like,
yeah.
Ugh, don't do it.
Yeah. So that's my opinion. I kind of went on a bit of a rant, but racial
it's
topic
good.
is something we could talk about for a whole fucking episode by itself. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to say on top of that.
I think I've gone through most of my opinions on this movie. Thought it was great. If you've listened to this and haven't seen it, go see it. You now know a lot about it, but it's still a great movie.
Oh no, yeah. What we talk about cannot match to what you see on screen, 100%. So if you listen to this but you haven't seen it, then go see it anyways. You're gonna be blown away.
While
that
you can.
being said, yeah, while you can, please, because this is not going to stay in theaters for very much longer, unfortunately. But if you get a chance to then watch it on VOD, on demand, by all means do so. This movie deserves all the funding it can get. Anyways, so on to our song of the week. I thought that this was pretty dope. This isn't necessarily new, but I think it's extremely underrated. It's gotten very good critical acclaim, but I don't think people have heard it enough. There's an artist called Thundercat. If you don't know, if you follow Kendrick, then you know who Thundercat is. But Thundercat is an incredible artist. He released an album called Drunk last year, 2017. It's jam-packed with great production. There's a lot of jazz, there's a lot of blues, there's a lot of very experimental musicality in the whole album. But the one that I do want to highlight of the whole thing, which I highly suggest you check out, but the song that I want to highlight is Them Changes by Thundercat on the album Drunk. I think it's a fantastic song. I think it highlights the musicality of the whole album. And without further ado, let's play Them Changes by Thundercat, and hopefully check out the whole artist.
Nobody move, there's blood on the floor, and I can't find my heart. Where did it go? Did I leave it in the cold? So please give it back, 'cause it's not yours to take. It must have fell when I lost my mind. Deep in the cup, drowning in pain. Somebody help, 'cause I can't find my way. Nobody move, nobody move. Somebody tell me how I'm supposed to feel when I'm sitting here knowing this ain't real. Why in the world would I give my heart to you just to watch you throw it in the trash? I've been juggling so long, I don't think I can hold on. Where were you when I needed you the most? Now I'm sitting here with the black hole in my chest. A heartless, broken mess.
Okay, and we're back from listening to Them Changes. Honestly, Juan, you're a huge jazz fan, so I know that this song was definitely one of the relevant ones that you would want to have displayed on the podcast. But I'm a huge since I started learning about Thundercat from Kendrick and his production on To Pimp a Butterfly, On These Walls, I've been a huge fan. But this album is phenomenal. For those who haven't heard it yet, it's fantastic. Juan, I know that you're the jazz fan here I mean, I love jazz, but like you definitely love it way more than I do. Any thoughts, anything you want to say about it?
Well, I mean, for me, Thundercat has always been kind of the people Thundercat's been the people who produce the best of Kendrick's songs. In my opinion, one of my favorite Kendrick songs by far is These Walls.
Yeah.
And the influence is clear there. It's just this feeling that I get from listening to this music that I can't really get from rap. It's not extreme, it's not rough, it's just kind of calming and soothing, and it's something that I absolutely love, and I'm really happy that we're including in this podcast. And I think that more people should give Thundercat attention. I mean, you know, they're producing for phenomenal artists. I mean, Kendrick Lamar, you know.
And there's 3 incredible features on this album. We got Pharrell, Wiz, and Kendrick, of course. So definitely within the artistry of the realm of like things that you should know.
So you guys should check them out for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Juan, this is your time to shine. I want to give you a spot right here. Give me 5, maybe 10 minutes max. Your thoughts on the Meg. Spoilers alert. I don't give a fuck. Okay, just like go at it. I want to know about the Meg. I have not watched it. If you can convince me to watch it, convince me. But as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, it's doing well. So I might actually go watch it in theaters, but go. This is Juan's shitty film review corner of the week. Go for it.
All right, guys. So one thing that I've been talking about ever since I heard about this movie coming out, I was like, I can't wait to see Jason Statham punch a shark in the face. And I gotta say, the Meg delivered. If you have seen this movie, you already know. Not only does Jason Statham punch a shark in the face, but he punches it through the eye and it kills it.
Oh, nah.
This movie delivered on every single front that I wanted. While it had a slow beginning, as far as a fun popcorn flick goes, this movie was great. Everyone that you wanted to die died. It had some like kind of gruesome. Well, the deaths themselves weren't that gruesome, but the shark deaths were pretty gruesome. If you don't know, there's 2 sharks. You didn't just get 1 Meg, you got 2 Megs.
God damn.
2 Megs.
That's
And they didn't even focus on anything like about the science. They were just like, whatever. There's Megs. Go get them.
Right.
And the whole movie, once they show up, fast-paced, real quick. The acting, incredibly corny. And the dialogue is the most B-movie dialogue that I've ever heard.
Yo, wait, what kind of... Are we talking about like B as in like a B rating or B movie as in like the B movie?
Neither. Like kind of like... Well, not B rating, but like... You know, like cheesy...
Some B-list shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, it's so funny. The dialogue is terrible a lot of the time. There's sometimes where it's okay, but sometimes it's just so funny.
Does the CGI match or nah?
I mean, what else can I say? There's a moment where Jason Statham literally uses a submarine to gut a shark, and then he gets out of the submarine and has a spear, and he spears the shark through the eye as they're flying out of the water. Come on.
I can't even
Incredible
visualize
movie.
this properly.
No.
It's hard for me to put this together.
Yeah, but I've got to say, Jason Statham really delivers on his action. He's absolutely one of the most kind of, I don't know, like, he's an old actor at this point, right? Jason Statham's kind of getting up there, but he's still looking incredibly in shape. He's selling his roles, and this movie was a lot better than most of the shitty action movies that have come out this year. Juan, did you end up seeing Rampage?
I have not, unfortunately, which really sucks because it was literally our childhood. Me and you played the games. It was like fucking incredible. Like I have vivid memories of that, but I didn't get a chance to see it. Did you?
Well, yeah, I actually saw it when it came out, and honestly, I have to say, I was kind of excited for it, but in the end, it just kind of disappointed. The Meg really did live up to these expectations of just a fun popcorn flick. you really get everything you want from it. Jason Statham performs exactly how he needs to, and I mean, all the other aspects are great. The giant shark is great. One thing I gotta say though, watch out, the CGI is trash.
Oh, see, that's what I asked you about. I don't think you didn't hear me ask you this. Like, but like 5 minutes ago, I asked you about the CGI. Is it really that bad?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
When I notice the CGI, it's pretty bad.
Oh boy. Okay, I might see it.
Do recommend the Meg. Go watch it, pre-game it. Good times.
Hey. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for your installment of shitty movies with Juan. I look forward to these every week now. So, but
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Speaking of a movie that's not going to be shitty though, media for next week. BlacKkKlansman. Shout out to Spike Lee. He is an NYU alumni. So shout outs to him especially. I got the chance to actually sit in a lecture of his when he received an award last year, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, BlacKkKlansman, Spike Lee, you already know the deal. We're gonna be watching it for next week. Make sure that you catch that because so you can stay in tune with our discussion. And yeah, I think we're going on like a streak of just very politically relevant films. So I think that BlacKkKlansman is definitely the next one through the hoop. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be, Gobekli Tepe, your woke podcast update. Like
Pretty much at this point.
any day now.
Two Latinos give you a little pop culture update of what's going on in America in terms of entertainment. But yeah, definitely watch BlacKkKlansman. I think that's pretty much it.
That's it.
I don't know if any other media I think we should touch upon. Listen to the albums that I mentioned too. I might mention them again next week depending on the buzz that they get. But yeah, thanks for listening again. Always another episode. We out here, like, even if I'm in Vegas, even if Juan's in LA, then he's gonna be in Berkeley. Like, we're all over the place, but we're recording these because we love doing this shit. So
yeah, thanks to everyone who's been listening for the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah. So what is this?
Follow us on
episode
Instagram.
7?
Keep you updated.
Yeah.
This is episode 7.
Episode 7, boy. Lucky number 7. And I'm in Vegas for lucky number 7. So there you go. Follow us on Instagram. We have our personal accounts, link in the description, but also our actual Gobekli Tepe at Gobekli Tepe Podcast Instagram. Hashtag us, follow us, like our shit, comment on everything. YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts. You already know the deal. Thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you in the next week with BlacKkKlansman. Peace out.
Peace.